Hey, I never thought I'd be sitting here telling a stranger this, but lately I can't stop thinking about it. I'm the girl who's always been the responsible older sister, the one holding everything together while mom's off chasing her career or her latest boyfriend. But with her gone for weeks at a time, it's just me and my younger brother at home. And something's changed between us that I'm terrified to admit. I'm 22, working a dead-end retail job that barely covers rent, coming home exhausted every night to an empty house, or almost empty. Mom's texts are always the same: be back soon, love you both. Take care of your brother. I feel so lonely, so overwhelmed, and honestly, so touch-starved. I never wanted this life. The apartment feels too quiet, the evenings stretch on forever, and every night I lock the door wondering how long I can keep pretending everything is fine. It started one random Thursday evening. Mom had just left for another 2-week business trip. My brother Jake, a CS-19 now, was in the living room watching TV in just his sweatpants after a shower. I walked in to ask what he wanted for dinner and caught the scent of his fresh soap mixed with that warm, familiar boy smell I've known since we were kids. And for the first time it made my stomach tighten in a way that wasn't sisterly at all. I froze in the doorway, the words dying on my lips. The light from the screen flickered across his bare chest, still a little damp, and I felt this sudden heat crawl up my neck. He looked up, gave me that easy half-smile he said since he was little, and said something casual like "pizza again." But all I could focus on was how close the air felt between us, how the couch seemed smaller than usual. My heart was beating too loud. I told myself it was nothing, just exhaustion playing tricks, but my body didn't listen. I turned away quickly, mumbling about checking the fridge, but the scent lingered, that clean warmth that used to mean safety now pulled at something deeper, something I didn't want to name. When I came back with 2 plates, he had shifted over, making room like always. Our knees brushed as I sat down. Just that small contact sent a shiver through me. I cowled and hid. He didn't move away. Neither did I. The whole evening we sat there, shoulders inches apart, the TV murmuring in the background. Every time he laughed, low and easy, I felt it vibrate through the cushion into my skin. I kept stealing glances at the way his hair fell across his forehead, still messy from the shower, and I hated how aware I was of his breathing, steady, calm, while mine kept catching. Later, when I stood up to clear the dishes, my hand accidentally grazed his arm. The warmth of his skin through that brief touch stayed with me all the way to the kitchen. I gripped the counter, whispering to myself, "But yes, your brother." But the ache didn't listen. It settled low and heavy, like gravity pulling me back toward the living room. That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment our knees touched. The house was so quiet I could hear his faint music through the wall. I pressed my palm to my stomach, trying to push the feeling down, but it only spread warm, restless, forbidden. I told myself it was just because Mom was gone again, just loneliness talking. Nothing more. But when I finally drifted off, my dreams were filled with that same soap scent and the quiet sound of his breathing right beside me. I woke up flushed, heart racing, terrified of what tomorrow would feel like when I saw him again over breakfast. And then morning came and the pull was still there, stronger than before. From then on the days melted into this quiet, dangerous rhythm that I couldn't escape even if I tried. I'd come home from work bone tired, and there he'd be, Jake, in the kitchen stirring something simple on the stove, or sprawled on the couch with his controller, his hair still damp from the shower. The apartment that used to feel too empty now hummed with his presence. We'd eat dinner together at the tiny table, our knees sometimes bumping underneath, and the TV flickering with whatever show we picked. His laugh, low and warm, would roll through me like a wave every single time, and when he reached for the remote his shoulder would brush mine just enough to leave heat behind on my skin. I started noticing everything. The way his fingers curled around his glass, the faint scar on his knuckle from some childhood fall, the steady rise and fall of his chest when he breathed. Things that should have been ordinary now felt charged, like the air before a storm pressing down, making it hard to swallow. I'd tell myself it's nothing, we're just closer now, Mom's never here, but my body knew better. Every shared glance, every accidental touch, racing under my clothes, and I'd have to look away fast, heart hammering like I'd been caught stealing something precious. At night after the dishes were done, I'd lie in my room staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint sounds of him moving around next door. What the hell is wrong with me? He's my little brother. This is twisted. I'd think the words sharp and cold in my head. The guilt would twist tight in my chest like a knot I couldn't loosen. It's just the loneliness stalking. It'll fade when Mom gets back, I'd promise myself, but then I'd catch the scent of his soap on the hoodie he'd left draped over the chair, and my mind would slip sideways into places I had no right to go. Warm skin close enough to feel the heat without even touching that pulled deep in my stomach like gravity I couldn't fight. One evening we settled in for a movie. The lights dimmed low, the room wrapped in that soft blue glow from the screen. The plot dragged at first, but then the scene shifted, something intimate unfolding between the characters on TV. Instead of grabbing the remote, we both went still. His hand rested on the cushion between us, palm up, fingers relaxed. The air felt thicker, heavier, like it was holding its breath right along with me. I don't know which of us moved first, then slowly laced together, warm and tentative in the dark. We didn't look at each other, not once. Just sat there holding on while the sounds from the movie filled the space between us, soft gasps and whispers that made my pulse thunder in my ears. That simple touch. God, it felt like stepping off the edge of everything safe I'd ever known. His palm was slightly rough, warmer than I expected, and every tiny shift of his fingers sent electricity humming straight through me. I kept telling myself to let go, this is insane, pull away right now, but my hand wouldn't listen. It stayed right there, laced with his like it belonged there, and the ache that bloomed low and heavy made my breath come shallow and uneven. The movie played on, but I couldn't follow a single word anymore. All I could feel was him next to me, solid and real and so close, the forbidden warmth of his skin bleeding into mine through that one small connection. When the credits finally rolled, neither of us moved at first. The silence stretched taut between us, heavy with everything we weren't saying. My heart was racing so loud I was sure he could hear it. Part of me wanted to yank my hand back, to laugh it off like it was nothing but another part. The part that had been starving for this kind of closeness for so long. Wanted to stay right there forever. He squeezed my fingers once gently, almost like a question, and I squeezed back before I could stop myself. The room felt smaller, the walls closer, the night outside pressing in like it knew our secret. I finally pulled away, murmuring something about it being late, but my voice came out shaky, barely above a whisper. As I stood, the loss of his touch left a cold, empty spot on my palm that I couldn't ignore. Walking to my room, I could still feel the ghost of his fingers, the way they fit against mine so perfectly it terrified me. I closed my door and leaned against it, eyes shut, breathing too fast. This can't keep happening, I whispered to the empty dark, but even as the words left my lips I knew they were a lie. The craving was already there, deeper and outwisting tighter with every passing hour, and tomorrow I'd have to face him over breakfast again, knowing exactly how his hand felt and knowing. After that night, the pretending cracked wide open. Mornings became this careful dance where I'd catch myself staring too long at the way his hair fell across his forehead while he poured cereal. We started finding excuses to stay in the same room longer than necessary. One evening the couch felt inviting after a long day, and we both ended up there watching nothing in particular. I must have drifted off because when my eyes opened, my cheek was pressed against his chest, the steady thump of his heart right under my ear. His thin t-shirt did nothing to hide the warmth of his skin, and I lay there frozen, not daring to move. His arm had slipped around me, somehow, fingers resting lightly on my lower back where my shirt had ridden up just enough for skin to meet skin. The faint roughness of his fingertips from all those hours gripping a controller sent a slow shiver through me, but neither of us pulled away. We just breathed there in the quiet, the television murmuring forgotten in the background. It happened again a few nights later, only this time I woke first. His hand had drifted higher under the hem of my shirt, palm flat against the curve of my spine. The heat of it felt branded there, and my pulse kicked up so fast I worried I'd feel it through my ribs. I should have shifted away, whispered something casual, but instead I stayed perfectly still, letting the forbidden closeness sink deeper. His breathing stayed even and slow, like he was still lost in sleep, yet his fingers flexed once, almost unconsciously tracing a tiny circle, but made my stomach tighten with a hunger I refused to name. When he finally stirred, I pretended to be asleep, to heart hammering while he gently adjusted the blanket over us both. The weight of his arm stayed draped across me, heavy and protective, and so wrong it made my eyes sting with guilt. Everything's fine, he-esque, rushing his online classes, I'd tell her while Jake's head rested in my lap, my fingers threading slowly through his hair. The strands were soft and slightly damp from his shower, and each gentle stroke made him sigh quietly, eyes half closed in contentment. The guilt twisted sharp in my chest every single time because Hirai was lying to our mother, while the boy had grown up protecting now made my skin hum with a different kind of need. Yet the thrill of our shared secret wrapped around me like smoke, making it impossible to stop. It'd hang up and Chidu look up at me with that small knowing smile, and the air between us would thicken until breathing felt like a conscious effort. I started stealing his hoodies when he washed looking, pulling the oversized fabric over my head just to surround myself with his scent. It clung to the collar, that faint mix of his body, washing something uniquely him, and did wear it while doing chores, inhaling deeply whenever I passed a mirror. Every goodnight hug stretched longer than the last, his arms wrapping around me, a little tighter, chin resting against my hair. We never spoke about it, but the way his hands lingered at the small of my back said everything, the pressure just firm enough to remind me how perfectly we fit. Shared glances across the dinner table carried a new weight to, like invisible threads pulling us closer with every stolen second. I'd catch him watching me and my cheeks would flush hot, forcing me to look away before the ache low in my belly grew too loud to ignore. Then there was that song. We were driving back from grabbing takeout when the radio crackled to life and the opening chords of Yellow by Coldplay filled the car. My breath caught hard in my throat because it was the exact track that had been playing the first time our hands found each other in the dark. The memory hit like a wave, his fingers tightening around mine, tentative yet sure, the way my entire body had responded with a rush of heat that left me trembling. Now every note dragged me right back there, pulse quickening, skin prickling with remembered electricity. Jake glanced over from the driver's seat, his eyes darkening just a fraction, and I knew he felt it too. Neither of us spoke, but the car suddenly felt too small, the space between us charged with everything we kept swallowing down. By the time we pulled into the driveway, my hands were shaking and the hunger had pooled deep and insistent, refusing to be silenced. I slipped into his hoodie again that night, burying my face in the sleeve while the faint echo of the song still hummed in my ears. The fabric held his warmth like a secret, and I wondered how much longer we could keep dancing around this fire without getting burned. His door was ajar down the hall, and I stood there in the hallway listening to the soft sounds of him moving around, heart pounding with the terrifying certainty that tomorrow would bring us even closer. Closer than either of us could pretend was still innocent. Last weekend, Mom's call came out of nowhere, her voice bright through the speaker saying she'd finished early and would be home by morning. My stomach dropped even as I murmured something reassuring, hanging up with fingers that wouldn't stop trembling. Jake stood in the doorway watching me, the same storm in his eyes that had been building for weeks. We didn't speak at first, just stood there in the dim hallway while the weight of her words pressed down like an approaching storm. That night the wine flowed too freely, bottle after bottle opened under the pretense of celebrating her return. Each glass loose and the careful knots we tied around our feelings until the air in the living room grew thick and heavy with everything unsaid. His laugh came low when I spilled a drop on my shirt, and before I could think, I was reaching for a napkin only to find his hand already there. The brush of his knuckles against my skin sent sparks racing up my arm. We both froze, breath shallow, eyes locked in the soft glow from the television we weren't really watching. I don't remember who moved first. Only that somehow we ended up in his room, door clicked shut behind us, the faint blue light from his computer screen the only witness. Clothes slipped away in hesitant layers, each piece falling like a confession we could no longer hold back. The heat of his body so close, bare skin meeting bare skin for the first time without barriers or excuses, made my chest tighten with a mix of terror and relief so sharp it stole the air from my lungs. When he finally pressed inside me, it felt like falling and being caught all at once, his whispered name on my lips sounding like both prayer and damnation. Every slow movement carried the gravity of years spent orbiting with no way back. I clung to him, nails pressing into his shoulders, lost in the overwhelming closeness that blurred every line we'd sworn to keep. Morning found me alone in my bed while he left for class, sheets still carrying traces of his warmth. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying every heartbeat, every hushed breath against my neck, torn between crushing shame that made me curl into myself and dissatisfaction so deep it scared me. This was wrong in every way that mattered. We were risking our family, our future, the fragile trust Mom still placed in us from afar. Yet for the first time in years, the hollow ache of loneliness that had followed me like a shadow was gone, replaced by something raw and alive that pulsed with his name. I knew the smart thing, the right thing, was to pull away before everything shattered. But the thought of going back to empty evenings and polite distance felt unbearable now. I've chosen this dangerous path instead, stealing these stolen moments while Mom's absences still give us room to breathe. Maybe that makes me selfish. Maybe it makes me awful for craving the one person who truly sees me. But the way he looks at me now, like I'm the center of his quiet universe, fills spaces I didn't know were empty. Heavy and constant, yet it doesn't outweigh the pull that draws me back to his door each night. So, be honest with me. If you were in my shoes, lonely for so long, touch-starved in your own home with someone you love more than anything, sharing the same silences, would you have found the strength to stop? Or would the hunger have won just like it did for me? Tell me in the comments what you think I should do next. If the likes hit high enough, I might confess the rest, including that terrifying morning when Mom's car pulled into the driveway sooner than expected and we barely had time to fix the evidence of our surrender. I still don't know if we'll survive this fire we've lit, but God help me, part of me never wants it to end.